Hello everyone, I'm Jim Longworth and welcome to another edition of Forsyth County Connections, and we are here in the studios of Cable 2, operated by the good folks at Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System. We appreciate their hospitality and having us here. We have a lot to cover for you in this half hour, and I hope you'll stay with us the entire time. We're going to cover a wide range of things, from budget to public art to much more. But what we want to start is with the serious topic of opioids, not so much what they are and the damage they're doing, I think we know that, but the opioid settlement funds. How are they being used or will be used? We bring in an expert, who's a good friend of the show, who's helped us out before. Shontell Robinson's Deputy County Manager for Forsyth County. Welcome back.
Thanks, Jim.
Remind us how the opioid settlement funding came about and what can those funds be used for?
Sure. So it's a $26 billion settlement that all of the states joined, and so those funds can be used for treatment and education and harm reduction and various things. And so essentially the states got together to sue Johnson & Johnson because of their practices of how they distribute opioids, as well as 3 major distributors. And so it really is to try to combat the opioid crisis across the country.
And I think there was a lot of criticism, not to name company names, but criticism of how they marketed things to doctors and others. Now, you mentioned a figure. Can you narrow that down to Forsyth County? I mean, how much settlement money does Forsyth County get?
Sure. So we are anticipating receiving about $19.7 million over the next 18 years that we can put into our community to really address the crisis that we are having across the county.
Now, you said receiving, so let me ask this question. When will these funds come in? I mean, when will we be able to have them?
So hopefully sooner than later, but we are anticipating by the end of the summer we should receive our first tranche of those funds. We are expecting for the first year approximately $2.4 million, and then from there an average of $1.2 million for the 18-year cycle.
As Deputy County Manager, and I know you have a lot of responsibilities in other areas, so now this is yet another one, but what's the county's role in general in managing these funds?
So we are going to be the recipients of the funds, and so our goal is to first try to have a public input session so that we can identify what the true needs are in the community, and so information will be going out in regards to that within the next couple months. We also are responsible for really trying to identify what those gaps are, to address those gaps, and then depending on what we're able to determine, we may have a request for proposal process where organizations can apply to receive those funds.
That's what I was getting ready to ask about that, because you know, sometimes people say, wait a minute, Shontell shouldn't be the only one deciding this stuff. I've got this agency here and we work with kids, or we work with what. So in other words, if somebody has an agency, an organization, maybe a nonprofit that you think is worthy of something like this, they can come and make a presentation eventually and maybe try to qualify for some of these funds, right?
Absolutely. So the first thing that we're going to have to do after the public input session is we will have a stakeholder group that's representative of the community. So they will help us to identify what the priority areas are. From there, once we identify those priority areas, we would issue a request for proposal process so that we can try to put out an application for organizations to apply, and then we would absolutely have discussions with them as well.
What a daunting task. I mean, how in the world, you can't answer this, I guess, but it's hypothetical, it's sort of a rhetorical question, but how are you ever going to weed out and decide? I mean, because it sounds, you know, $2 million or here and there sounds like a lot of money, but it goes fast, right?
It goes very fast, but it is a process that we are very much experts in. We've done it for the American Rescue Plan Act. We do it for our behavioral health funding process each year through the budgetary process. And so it is very deliberate. We really try to do our best to vet the applications, ensure that the organizations that's applying have the experience doing what they are saying they can do.
Now let me put you on the spot. We didn't rehearse this or anything, but is there a particular place or website or phone number or anything where people can go to say, you know, I want to know more about this before they start having all these hearings?
Yeah, so to learn more about the opioid settlement itself, individuals can go to ncopioidsettlement.org, and then once we begin the process, we will post information on our website, which is www.forsyth.cc.
Shontell, as always, thanks for making all this clear and helping me understand it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. We'll be right back after this.
Unlike other health concerns, mental illness is not always easy to see.
D-E-P-R.
Mental illness doesn't show up on a scale.
Bipolar?
Sorting out a mental health concern takes professional diagnosis and treatment.
Anxiety. I thought so.
If you or a loved one has a mental health concern, don't go it alone. For 24-hour free and confidential information and treatment referral, call 1-800-662-HELP. Learn more at samhsa.gov/support.
Back now on Forsyth County Connections, and our special guest is someone who's been with us before, and he is a busy, busy man, so we stole him away for a few minutes because he's working on the very thing that we want to talk about a little bit, because I want to understand more about budget and how it affects my life, and I think you want to know too. We're, of course, with Kyle Wolf, Budget and Management Director for Forsyth County. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
How big is the proposed budget in terms of tax rate and total appropriations? Give me an idea.
So ballpark right now, it looks like it's going to be around $521 million, which is about $21 million more than what the FY22 budget is. The tax rate is going to be recommended to stay at 67.78 cents, which is the same rate that was in the current year budget.
And you figure out how much you think you can spend, and I'll get to this in a minute, but since you're talking about the total figures, you're really sort of projecting how people are going to do and how much tax they're going to pay and all that. So you're sort of optimistic, aren't you, about how things are going?
You know, on the revenue side, things are going really well. The tax base estimate that we got from the tax assessor showed significant growth. Sales taxes have been performing out of the roof, and so we're maybe a little bit nervous there, but at the same time, we are not actually estimating very much growth overall year over year, or over where we're going to end up in the current year.
What pressures are on the budget that you think are going to come to bear?
So when you look at the county budget, it's people, schools, and debt. And I mean, that's basically 80% of it. And so on the people side, you know, which is about 34% of our budget, we have some compensation pressures there. The board has been really generous in trying to compensate employees, trying to make Forsyth County a great place to work and convince people to come work here and stay working here. So that's one thing. The schools is, with Winston-Salem, Forsyth County Schools and Forsyth Tech are just a really significant part of our budget. And so they have the same kind of pressures, and so their costs are going up. And then debt is one of those things that we've issued debt, and so we got to pay for it. We also have obviously some inflation pressures and supply chain issues that, you know, really everybody's kind of struggling with and dealing with right now.
If my family, let's say, if my family depends on a particular type of service that's provided by the county or multiple services, how do I know, based on what you're working on now, I mean, do services continue at the same level? Or are they sort of built in, or am I going to be okay?
Absolutely. So the way that the county budget is developed is we developed a budget on a continuation basis, and so essentially the budget that will be presented to the Board of Commissioners is really the cost of doing business currently, the cost of continuing to offer that level of service. We'll also have some alternate service level requests to present to the board if they want to expand service and what that would mean in terms of cost.
When you say alternate, what about, and maybe this isn't what you're thinking about, but the opioid settlement funds, the ARPA funds, are they included just automatically in a budget, or you set them aside?
So the opioid funds are set aside currently in another fund. As you know, we're going to get about $19 million over the next 20 years. And so we have those funds set aside in a budget reserve right now, and the board will make decisions, you know, over the next few months about how to use those funds over the next few years.
Right.
With the ARPA, we do have some ARPA funding in our current budget, and then we also have a second round of funding that's open right now.
Yeah, we didn't rehearse this or anything. I'm just curious, as a resident, is there anything I can do to have input? Or, I mean, it's one thing to learn about what's going on, but do I just sort of sit back and say, well, gee, I hope Kyle and Dudley Watts and everybody and the commissioners, I hope they do right by me, or do I have input?
Absolutely. We are going to present the budget to the commissioners on next Thursday, May 26th, and then there will be a detailed presentation a week later, and then there is a budget hearing. At that public hearing, citizens will have the opportunity to come in and express what they like, what they'd like to see changed.
Okay. Well, I know you're busy and trying to work on this for everybody's benefit, and I appreciate you taking time to help me understand a little bit about the process, because it's important. It touches everybody's life. Money is a complicated thing, but I appreciate it, Kyle, for all you do.
Absolutely. It's Monday, June 6th is the public hearing at 2 o'clock.
Monday, June 6th, the public hearing. Oh, I forgot to ask you, is there a place where people can learn more about what you're doing with this, or?
Absolutely. You can, when we present the budget on May 26th, we will post it online, and we'll also have copies available at the local libraries and as well as our office.
Appreciate it, Kyle. Thanks for spending a few minutes with us.
Absolutely. Take care.
We'll be right back after this.
This is what too much sounds like. This is what stress feels like. And this is what help feels like. If you've lost a job, worry about your next meal, or have trouble making it through the day, we can help. Text STRESS to 211-211 to find a solution.
Back now in Forsyth County Connections, and I'm so glad to get this lady to sit down with us for a few minutes. She is always very busy. She has a lot of responsibilities over an area that affects every single one of us. I'm talking about Courtney Driver, who's Utilities Director for Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
What's the mission of your department, if you had to sort of encapsulate it? What's the mission, and what services do you oversee?
So Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utilities dedicated team provides quality water, wastewater, and solid waste disposal services to this region through responsible uses of our resources. So that's our mission, and that's what we're dedicated to do every single day.
Covers everything. And now there's I was speaking with the county manager, Dudley Watts, about this before you and I met, and he was talking about this unique joint arrangement. And maybe folks don't stop and think about it, because mainly we want to know, hey, are we getting water? You know, is the sewer working? You know, we're all pretty much selfish human beings. We want to make sure we've got what we need. But I think in the bigger picture, there's this unique joint arrangement, and it's governed uniquely. Talk about that arrangement and how it got started.
Okay. We do have a unique governance. I think it's a really good one that our leaders in the past set up for us. So in the 60s, the city and the county started talking about merging their water and sewer system. At that time, there was two different systems to maintain. And actually, the merger happened in 1976, where the city of Winston-Salem and Forsyth County's water and sewer systems were merged together. In the 90s, and at that time is when the Utility Commission was formed.
Right.
Winston-Salem Forsyth County Utility Commission. And that body, or that board, sets the rates and the policies and pretty much oversees our day-to-day operations.
Do you think because of that arrangement, it's a good thing? Obviously, I think I know the answer to this, but is this beneficial to the community to have this kind of arrangement, this kind of governance?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Over time, we merged with Kernersville, Louisville, and all the other towns within the county. So what that does is provide a regional utility, and we have the customer base and can generate the revenues to do what we need to do to continue providing the level of service while keeping rates as low as possible.
How is, this may be getting in the weeds a little bit too much, but I am curious very quickly, how is the governing body appointed? Or are they names that show up at election time, or are they appointed by mayors and county managers? What?
Yes, so it's an 11-member board, and it is appointed by the City Council of Winston-Salem and the Forsyth County Commissioners. 5 are appointed by the City Council, 5 from the County Commissioners, and then the mayor and the chair of the County Commissioners jointly appoint the chairperson of the Utility Commission.
You deal with this stuff every single day, 24/7. What would you say are the biggest challenges that the commission faces?
Well, I would first just want to make sure people understand what a huge responsibility we have for this community. You know, well, people expect to have clean water, somewhere for their wastewater to go, and somewhere to dispose of their trash. So we have an incredible responsibility. With that responsibility comes challenges, and I think the two major challenges for us are our people. They're our biggest asset. So we want to make sure we continue to recruit and retain people who are passionate about what they do. And then the second challenge is making sure we plan for the future, that we're planning for future growth and continue to be able to provide the services that people expect.
And there's a lot of, you know, maybe we can get you back sometime and talk about technology, which I learned about several years ago, but there's just so much that goes into the wastewater treatment plants to keep, you know, things safe and operating. I just don't know how you keep up with it. But is this, and again, I don't mean to spring something on you, but I'm just curious when I meet somebody for the first time, how did you get interested in this field and have such a passion for it to help people?
Well, it's an interesting how my career has brought me to where I am now, but you know, my background is civil engineering, and I think you just have to have a servant heart. I mean, I really am passionate about what I do, and I do think that what my team and I provide to this community really makes a difference in their lives. So if you can imagine what your day would be like without water and wastewater and somewhere to take your trash, our community would look totally different without that. So
absolutely.
I really enjoy what I do.
Well, it shows. Is there a, before we lose time here, is there a website or anything or a place people can go to just to learn more about what's going on with utilities?
Yeah, so since we're a joint department, you can go to the City of Winston-Salem's website. You can also go to the Forsyth County website and go to the departments under both of those pages, and it'll get you to our page.
Courtney Driver, thanks for all you do.
Thank you.
We'll be right back after this.
I keep hearing how things are getting back to normal. Is this normal? So much has changed. It's time to discover the new person I am now. For some great tips on finding your new normal, visit yourlifeyourvoice.org.
There's so much to see in this life's journey, and the view just keeps getting better. But untreated hearing loss can put us at risk for missing out. Stay connected so you can keep doing what you love. Get a hearing health check every year.
Back now on Forsyth County Connections, and so glad you stayed with us. Coming to you from the studios of Cable 2. We have a special guest who's a recent hire. She's been with the county for a long time, but moved into a new position. We're so glad to tell you about that. With me right now is Denise Price, the new Director of Behavioral Health Services for Forsyth County. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
What kinds of behavioral health services does the county provide, just to give people a general idea?
Great question. So the county provides a number of behavioral health services and supports directly. We provide our Forsyth Regional Opioid Substance Use Team, or FROST commonly referred to as, mobile integrated health. We have a pharmacy and a Stepping Up program. We also fund a behavioral health unit at the detention center and offer some funds to community organizations as they deliver services directly in the community.
Now let's say that somebody has a substance abuse problem or something like that. If they go to a program, a behavioral health program, that ostensibly appears to be a county program, will these programs be always managed by the county, or are they sometimes managed by organizations?
Both. So some of the services that I just mentioned are managed by the county directly. That would be our FROST program, MIH, the pharmacy, and Stepping Up. The behavioral health unit at the detention center is funded by the county, but it is managed through a contract with another provider. Some agencies receive funding from the county but manage their services directly. And then there's other providers who don't receive funding and manage their services directly but are an integral part of our service delivery system in Forsyth County.
Let me see if I can get a handle on the totality of this in terms of amount of funding. Do you, and maybe this is putting you on the spot and I shouldn't do this, but is there a total amount of funding that the county has allocated for behavioral health services for, you know, this year or for 2 years, or how is that set up?
Sure. So we have allocated over $4 million for fiscal year 23, which begins July the 1st of 2022. Those services support internal services and providers in the community as well. We also are expecting to receive $12.5 million from the state, and also have allotted some ARPA dollars to go toward our behavioral health crisis services.
And let's remind everybody what the ARPA dollars are about.
Sure. So ARPA dollars were provided to us to address issues in our community. It's divided out differently. Counties have some ability to determine where the most need is in our area, and behavioral health crisis services is one of those areas for Forsyth.
Generally speaking, I'll just use the example of, let's say, a teenager or somebody who's got a substance abuse problem. Mm-hmm. Once it's identified where he or she could go for help with a county program, in general, are these services free, or is there a fee for them, or what?
It really depends. For county services, our services are provided at no cost. Providers in the area may have associated fees. Insurers, for instance, usually have a copay associated with it.
Right. Now, can an organization apply for funding right now? I mean, is there a particular funding cycle or application cycle that says, you know, look, Denise, I'd really like to provide some service in this particular area. How is that done?
So this year, planning for the fiscal year 23 budget, that cycle has closed. Beginning in February of 2022, we began a public proposal process where organizations were invited to apply for funding. We received 25 applications this year. The Board of County Commissioners did approve funding of 19 of those. So that process will continue year on after we do a needs assessment, determine where our needs are. We do try to direct our funding to specific areas that might otherwise not have funding opportunities available, and largely to support our uninsured and underinsured.
You were telling me before we started the segment off camera that you've been at this for a pretty good number of years, although you look too young to have been involved that long. But these kind of issues are near and dear to your heart, right?
Absolutely. It's definitely a passion of mine.
Well, we appreciate all you're doing, and maybe I should also ask, is there a place where people can find out some general information about behavioral health services? There's a website or a phone number, anything you want to plug?
Absolutely. A couple of things that I would encourage people to take a look at and to watch for funding opportunities as well. The Forsyth County website, which is www.forsyth.cc. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention that if you or someone you know is experiencing a behavioral health crisis, that a good place to start is with Partners Health Management, and their crisis line is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 1-888-235-4673.
All right, say that one more time for me.
That's 1-888-235-4673.
Denise Price, congratulations on the new position, and appreciate all you do for everybody.
Appreciate it very much.
We'll be right back after this.
Performing on stage takes mental and physical preparation. But one thing I never thought to prepare for was cervical cancer. 91% of cervical cancers are caused by the human papillomavirus, or HPV. The good news is there are vaccines that can protect you or your children from cancer. I survived my cancer, but you can stop cancer before it starts. Talk to your doctor and go to thinkaboutthelink.org to learn more.
So, I keep hearing how things are getting back to normal. Really? When am I back to normal? What is normal anyway? I can't even remember. Is this normal? Seriously? No. Was this ever normal? Please. I think this used to be normal. Then I figured out, just stop it. So much has changed. No wonder nothing feels normal. But here I am, still standing, a brand new edition of me. This is no time to go back to anything. It's time to go forward and discover the new person I am now. I'm all in. For some great tips on finding your new normal, visit yourlifeyourvoice.org. You look familiar.
Back now on the Forsyth County Connections, and we're going to talk for the next few minutes about public art. Maybe something you don't think about all the time, but you appreciate. Let's find out more about it with this special guest. Kelly Bennett, project planner for Planning and Development Services Department in Forsyth County. Thanks for stopping by the show.
Thank you, Jim.
And I'll tell a tale on you, since you just told me before we started taping, because people sometimes wonder, well, how does he get into this field or whatever? But you said something about your parents.
Yeah, both my parents were art teachers.
So you come by this honestly, that you have an interest in art. What is the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Public Arts Commission?
The Public Art Commission is the group that is appointed by the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners and the Winston-Salem City Council, and they make public art decisions. They choose artists and help kind of facilitate public art projects for the city and county.
Are there any particular public art projects that maybe we would have noticed? Folks at home who are watching this have driven by one or walked by one, anything? Give me an example.
There are several all around. We're installing some artistic bus shelters around the city. There are 10 new ones going up. added to about 12 others that were put up in 2020.
So this is like a constant thing, right? That
Yeah,
you're
we'll
looking
do
into.
several projects a year.
Let me ask you, just as an art lover here, and somebody, as I said, came by it honestly based on your parents being art teachers. Well, do you have any favorite art, public art that's around the area?
Yeah, I would say one of our first pieces was at the Central Library downtown. And that was a piece by big sculpture by Dee Morrison.
Was that the giant book
That's
thing?
the giant book.
Okay.
And it says library in something like 100 different languages.
I love that. It's a great piece. Great piece.
Yeah,
and didn't you email me one day and say that you also like this something on a water tank, or what was that about?
Yes, and one of my other favorites is the Otter Tank on Peters Creek Parkway, just south of downtown, south of Clemensville Road, and it's a city-county utilities water tank, and it has a giant smiling otter on it.
Did that take a long time to do? How was that done?
That artist was very talented, and it was his name. He goes by Das, D-A-S-S, or D-A-S. Sorry.
Right.
D-A-A-S.
Right.
And it was him and an assistant, and they did that in 3 weeks.
Good gracious.
From just an off-white water tank to that.
Really sprucing up. I love stuff like that makes things prettier and jump out. Any new public art projects in the works that you can tell us about?
We just approved or just recommended to the Forsyth County Board of Commissioners a piece that will go to the Clemens Library, and that's going to be a sculpture in the courtyard by an artist named Seth Pomater.
Okay.
And it's going to be I believe a 12 or 14 foot tall sculpture with butterflies kind of spiraling up. And
cool.
It should have some bushes at the bottom that'll also attract live butterflies.
It's going to actually attract butterflies. That's nice.
That's the hope. Yeah.
That's right. All right, before we have just a couple seconds left. Why is this so important for the county to support?
This is really important just because it makes people proud of our community. And there are studies that show that when people are proud of their community and they're connected to it,
right.
They stay longer, they invest more, and they really talk about their community more, and it helps it stabilize and grow.
Absolutely. Is there a particular website or anything very quickly you want to plug?
You can go to cityofws.org/publicart, and you can find information about our projects.
Kelly, thanks for doing this and being with us on the show. And speaking of information you can get, you've probably seen the monitors in front of us and behind the whole time. connectwith.forsythcountync.gov. That's a good place to check out as well. And I want to do another shout out, of course, to our executive producer, County Manager Dudley Watts, to Tracy Doyle, who puts all this together, to TJ James and his crew here at Cable 2, Kevin Wren, and everybody who helps make the show possible. We will see you on the next edition of Forsyth County Connections. I'm Jim Longworth. We'll see you then.